It's so weird. It's been so long.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning right back in. It has been a while since we've been on this format, but we wanted to dive ourselves back into the podcasting world. So forgive us if it's a little clunky. It has been just as long for us as the last time you watched any of these videos. So we hope to provide maybe a little bit of entertainment for you guys. Also a little bit of information, talk a little bit of business, talk about some direction where we're going, some exciting new things, and then just hang out. We're not professional podcasters by any stretch. So bear with us as we wade our way through these topics and these ideas, and maybe it's a little bit fun for you guys on the other end. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and hop right in. Galen, Steve, how are we doing in Morristown?
Doing pretty good. I know Galen just now went through that workout, so I've got to go through it. The snatches and running, cleans and running.
Yeah, today is St. Patrick's Day. None of us have on green except for Steve.
I didn't mean to. I did not.
I
don't have it on either.
That was a good workout. Cloudy day right now, and anxious for the future. Happy to be back on here. It's ironic that you said wade back into this thing, because Justin always spears us and guides us back on to having a more robust online presence, and I'm glad he does.
Yeah, I completely did that on purpose. It was a complete accident with the weight thing. Yeah, spring is in the air though. That's nice. We got that that winter blast behind us. There's probably a few more of those en route, I would say. What do they always say? Red bud and then dogwood and blackberry winters and all those things. So maybe a couple more of them, and then warm weather and longer days maybe.
I don't know. Tanner's reading the Farmer's Almanac when I came in, so I don't know.
Got it in my back pocket.
Yeah, I guess we'll still open up with set your calendars for April 9th. We've kind of been telling the class our 9-year anniversary in Bristol. Probably have like a noon workout followed by some spirits and some food. So just have a nice little get together, get everyone around, do a really hard workout, earn those carbs, and then have a great time afterwards. 9 years. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Jack, if you're watching this.
Yeah, Steve can probably riddle off the average small business lifespan. What is that, Steve? Most small businesses make it to how far, roughly?
I was going to say at this point, I think you start out around 80% on making the first 3 years, something like that, or making the first year. And then once you make it like the first 5 years, it goes up to 90% don't even make it. And then it just kind of dwindles from there. So once you reach that 10-year mark, you're basically a unicorn. So
for those watching, it's not without you guys. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. Definitely.
Speaking of unicorns, tell us about that shirt, Jay.
Oh, this is the Run the Hill shirt that we did for the Outlier Challenge, which we had multiple people win, and each location. We had the Canes, Pam Boggs. Is that right? Is that how we had it in there? They got all the prizes there. And then here had Marty Altizer and Deidre Penley, who won our every year, our yearly Outlier Challenge, which happens in January, kicked the year off right. And it was good. We had a little bit of extra running conditioning in just to give them a little bit of extra stuff to do outside of the gym if they want to continue to prove that aerobic base. And coming into April, Galen segmented so well, we're going to be adding a little bit more, trying to get people a little bit ready for Murph. So Murph is, I think, on May 28th, I think is what the day we'll be doing it this year. So we'll be adding in a little bit of extra running, some mobility work, and also some higher volume body weight stuff to get them basically ready for that, because we're coming off pretty strength cycle inducive programming. Now we're kind of shifting gears, getting ready for the beach stuff. If Terry and Steve want to kind of drill sit on that, since they're the PGers now.
Stevie?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up right there. We're obviously going to try to get you guys to the point where you can handle that higher volume, especially if you want to add a vest in there. I've already actually did that the other day. I went ahead and added a vest to some of the work that Taryn programmed. And I know some of these guys here will do that as well. So that's our goal, is to build you up for that, because we understand that that's a pretty important workout to you as it is to us. And it seems like we always have a pretty big turnout for that day too. We end up with people that sometimes should not even be trying to do that. But nonetheless, we want to make sure that you're prepared, and you'll have fun with it, and you'll have hopefully a good result. So.
And it would be as devastating soreness wise, central nervous system wise, I'm going to call back to the analogy we just used, or maybe like draw a line between the potential success of a brand new business in the first year. We could maybe draw the line between, if you show up for Murph as your very first CrossFit workout and you pass that filter, you probably have a larger chance of enjoying CrossFit and having CrossFit in the end. It's not to say that we would encourage people to start with Murph, but it is an interesting line in my brain, the way that my little synapse fire. It makes me think of a similar, very narrow line of progression. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So if you could survive business in your first year as a small business owner, and or you could survive Murph as your first workout, maybe there's some correlation. You like toughness, you like a little bit of self-induced pain, challenge, etc.
Yeah, it'd be fun. What are we gonna do with Steve Amos? Galen, Steve, somebody.
Yeah, so we've never partnered with anyone in a fundraising fashion for Murph. It's just been a community thing where everybody trains really hard and then has a good time afterwards. But we are using this as an opportunity with his stepping out. I shouldn't say it's his, but he helps run the ship over there at Stepping Out. And we're partnering with them so folks can buy a t-shirt and support. It's a Murph t-shirt. So it will be, I think it's called Navy Gold. And navy, the color. So it'll have the Navy seal or the trident, the stamp, and the eagle on the back. It'll talk about what Murph is, and there'll be a few sponsors lined out. But you can support not only local people who are trying to recover and integrate themselves back into the community by buying a t-shirt, and you can support yourself by coming and seeing if you can pass that Murph filter. That's not to say that everyone who shows up has to do Murph as it is written. We would encourage everybody to dial that thing down so that they aren't left in a sweaty, pulpy, bloody mess. And I say that with full seriousness. So we don't want you to tear your hand. A sweaty mess is fine, but we want you to live, train another day. But long story short, we're partnering with someone in an attempt to generate more funds to support a local charity that, in our opinion, does good work. Normally they do things like a 5K. This is the first time they've branched out into a different route for engaging community and fitness outside of running. So yes, there's running, but there's also pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-up, push-ups, air squats. What is Murph?
Yeah, it's interesting that they came this route too. Most people, like you said, go the route of 5Ks and running events, but that's a workout that obviously our members and stuff know. But it's also one that's recognized in gym space, period. You don't have to be a CrossFit person, and people are probably performing that in small Globo gyms and stuff all over the place come that day. And it's one that maybe we bring some new faces in with too. So that's exciting that they can make that happen.
Very true. We've had like people like, I was talking to one of the guys who just signed up, Eric, last night. He's like, what's that one everybody does every year? It's got running and like 100 pull-ups. And he was talking about it. He's very, very, very new to CrossFit. He's like, I've heard of it before. So
yeah, that's one that definitely perks ears up every year. So
Dude, we even have some people that will watch, what's Mark Wahlberg's movie?
Lone Survivor.
Yeah, they'll watch that the night before.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were talking about Pain and Gain for a second. And I was like, dear God, please don't watch that. It's a terrible movie.
I like that movie too, but not the same movie.
Oh yeah. Lone Survivor looks great as well.
I was just, if you could watch that movie and then look like The Rock does now, then it'd be worth it. But
It's funny.
So let's be a little more clear. When we say run the hills, we'll have a little bit of extra work, kind of like to throw back to the Outlier Challenge. Is that what we mean?
Yeah, we're gonna throw back. So basically how we did on Wodify at the bottom, it's like this week complete 12 by 400 meter runs, split it up throughout 2 days. We'll have something very similar to that per week where people have the option to do it. It's not one where like you have to do it to get your points for a challenge like it was in the Outlier Challenge at the beginning of the year, but you have the option to do it just to add on top of your work if you want to be better prepared for Murph. Because, you know, we're usually 25 minutes or less per Metcon or conditioning or strength pieces. And then we're going to go into something that's going to be 40 minutes plus for everyone if you do it right. And then need a little bit more volume in there.
Yeah.
If you do it right.
And not only the Murph prep side of things, and that's why we wanted to incorporate it too, but that seemed like it was such a big hit, right?
Yeah.
Like people ate that stuff up. We attract a type of person that really wants to push themselves in the hour of gym and probably outside of that. So I guess I don't want to speak on our behalf only, but I would assume over there too, a lot of people really enjoyed that extra work and was sticking around after class or coming in before class and taking care of that, knocking out those big rowing efforts and stuff. So such a good success. People crave that type of stuff. Why not provide it? So you asked in a subtle way, and we hopefully will foot the bill there on starting in April. So yeah. So we'll just add it in as an additive to the bottom of the Wodify again, and give you an additional aerobic prescription each week and see how people respond to that. All while maintaining normal class programming and sprinkling in our strength maintenance work and stuff too, to circle it back around to where Justin was asking us where programming direction is going to go. So
And it's one of those things also, we don't want you to feel like you absolutely have to do this for the sake of winning a challenge, getting prizes, stuff like that. Either it's like, if you feel good, you want to do it, do it. If you feel like you're beat up and you're forced to go do it, we don't want that. All right. We want you to kind of take care of your body, eat, sleep enough, and then build on that when you have the opportunity to do so. Does that explain all right?
Yeah, I think so. So to kind of cap this up and tighten a bow, it will be Run the Hills, the hashtag Run the Hills. I think will live as a recurring theme that will complement the cycle of programming throughout the season of the year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not only will we have some stuff to do in April and May to prepare for Murph that will fall under the descriptor of Run the Hills, but in the future programming cycles, we'll have other things that complement. And it won't always be running. It'll just be just like we define outlier and then try to unpack what that means to us. Run the Hills will have its own little definitive piece that we ask folks to do, right?
Yeah.
Is that how we?
yeah. So those of you that watch this, and if you're finding it in a link or on YouTube, then fire off in the comments what you think about those ideas, things that interest you, and maybe things you'd like to see implemented in that type of format, because we're open to ideas and definitely want to keep our finger on the pulse of what it is you guys like and enjoy and want to improve upon. So obviously running and rowing and biking, but as Galen said, as the program changes, what would supplement well or things you'd like to improve upon, we could sprinkle in as extra volume. So
Yeah.
we love that feedback for sure.
Taryn program a month will be accumulated 1,000 curls in a week or something like that.
Yeah, I've been working on it.
So you can do 100 burpees a day.
Oh, you remember when we did that for Tom, Steve? You and I? I'm
Yeah.
sure a bunch of people have done that before. I'll remember that day. I didn't have much time in the gym. I was in Morristown at the time, cold, didn't get to warm up. I wasn't going to get to work out. So he had it in his program, and you were doing more competitive programming at the time. You're like, going to hop in here with me? And me being the idiot that I am, said, sure. And 100 burpees for Tom it was. And it hurt real bad.
Yep. And yeah, he got me on that one too, of course. So
A lot better. At the
There's
time,
100
probably
pound
couldn't-
weight difference.
Yeah, at the time, I couldn't pick up 250 pounds off the floor probably, but I could do a burpee.
I think about that time, and then I think about back in the day, we did 100 days of burpees, and you had to do, basically, it's kind of like a death by. It's kind of the way it went. It was 1 burpee one day, 2 burpees the next day. And so you would build all the way up to like, we were in the I missed 2 days in the 90s or 3 days in the 90s. So I had like 300 burpees I had to make up in one day.
Man, I like that. There's you one of the sprinkled in options for. Yeah, sound off if you're in for that one down in the comments.
I think that's what helps us like coach other people, especially like when it comes to training, volume, things like that. There's a lot of weight that comes with experience of doing things. And we've probably done it. Whatever you're thinking about doing or whatever you've done, we've probably already done it. So I think to me, that helps with my coaching is like, hey, don't do that. I've done that before. Or, hey, you might want to try this because I've been there before. So, but the burpee thing, I don't know if that was a good idea of us actually being.
It's good for 2 weeks. You know,
Yeah.
up into the 14, that's no problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sideways though.
It's horrible. Horrible. We were talking about this on the phone, I guess Tuesday, talking about some of the old workouts that we remember. We used to do when we had a smaller membership base. God, we had what, 20, 30 people, I guess, in Morristown. Gail and I were both down there. And every time someone would have a birthday, we'd make up a birthday with either their naming after them and do a themed workout for them with their age in there or something like that. And Steve's was one of the bad ones. Did they have rope climbs in it, G? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Or rope climbs,
I want to say burpees and
Tire flips.
Pistols were in there somewhere, I think, too.
heavy deadlifts. And generally what we did was we would, since we had such a small and intimate group, we knew more precisely what, for example, Steve really liked to do and what Steve hated to do. And we would pull from both ends of that spectrum and plug it into a workout and then literally just kind of wring ourselves out because they were always harder. It was almost like a hero workout. It was your birthday, it was a hero workout essentially.
Basically, yeah.
And this was in the original location. And I just remember feeling hopeless in the middle of that workout. I didn't want it. I was so mad for Steve for being like 21 years old or whatever it was.
Don't worry, I paid for it that night. But anyways,
Someone's vehicle paid for it too.
Yeah, my face paid for it as well.
I was gonna say, thinking about back to like people's birthdays, it got to the point where we
Time.
Go.
we gotta go. No, I just get thinking about like when we got the membership like higher and higher. It's like it was somebody's birthday, like almost felt like every other day. I was like, we can't
Not
keep these workouts
sustainable,
up.
not
Yeah.
sustainable.
So, but they were fun back in the day. There were some really tough ones.
Tony Lineberger, so he turned 44, and for some reason we put 44 Supermans in it. And it's like multiple rounds. We're like, 44 Superman, it won't be that bad. But there were so many burpees and like high cardio stuff, and you lay on the ground and it compresses your diaphragm and you can't breathe. And everybody's bitching about, I guess we'd say bitching, but censored, complaining about the Supermans being one of the hardest things, and we had no clue what we were doing with that anyways. But
44 in a row.
In general, that was the theme of these.
We ran a 5K in the middle of the summer. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. We did a 5K in the middle of the summer, and I remember I finished it because we had to run. Back then, you had to run by Long John Silver's, RIP, and then you had to run down to Taco Bell and then come up the railroad tracks and just hope that there wasn't a train sitting there because they would park them there. And you had to hope it wasn't there, and then you would just jump across and you either go again or however you needed to do that for the 5K.
You have to do it 3 times.
3 times, that's what it was, yeah. And we did it in the middle of the summer, and I remember as soon as I got through, my feet were on fire. I was just ripping my shoes off. But we would do stuff like that and all kinds of stuff. I mean, that's what
You do like buddy carries and stuff outside around town kind of deal
yeah,
too?
we would do sprints along the side of the building in gravel. So obviously you're trying to kick up as much as you can. And the first, 10 feet, you're kicking up rocks.
Burnouts.
looked like the road runner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember we did Griff, which is, I think it's 2 rounds, 800-meter run forward, 400-meter run, you run backwards. We did 2 rounds of that, maybe 3. But I remember seeing Tyler Wills, who he was a walk-on at UT, and he was running faster 400, and I was running forward. It was the most ridiculous thing. I mean, he ran like a 140, 400 backwards. It was so weird. His legs would stride out so far. I was like, this is crazy. Oh, he crushed it. Tyler Wills.
I talked to him yesterday.
He's a firefighter, right? In Knoxville?
Yeah.
Nice mustache.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, but he's just naturally gifted. Like he's one of the only people I've ever seen just do just freakishly crazy things, just walking off the street. He walked in here off the street, he could do strict ring muscle ups same day. And he power clean 315, weighing like 165, 170.
He's a freak.
Yeah, shout out to him.
All quads.
I remember him doing bounding 30-inch box jumps like a
Nothing.
12-inch box jump.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the day I'm referencing another day. I'll let
That's
Steve
another-
tell another story.
That was another bad day for me. We were doing that. There was 30, like you said, 30-inch bounding box jumps. It was me, him, and Tyler doing the workout, and it had rowing in it. And I mean, at 5'9" and weighing over 200 pounds, that's not a movement that's going to be great for me, regardless. So I'm trying to do bounding box jumps with them, and I literally missed one of them, and not only hit one shin, I hit them both. It scraped down both shins like I'd say a good 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches down my shin. And not only could I not keep going. I had to just sit down, and I just I let them keep working out. I just sat down on the rower and just stopped completely. So
It's the only one you ever DIA'd in, right? Or
yeah,
DNF'd.
yeah, I think so. That's the only workout I can recall where I just completely stopped.
So funny. We've had so many like, God, what else do we do? I remember we were trying to box jump the green electrical thing out in the back parking lot in Morristown at the new place. I got my left foot up on top and I kicked the metal so hard with my right shin. It was like, it's like one of those you can't breathe. It's like, ah, and you just quit. I was the same thing as Steve. Exact same thing.
Call it that.
What else?
Well, it's those memories and those moments, like we talked about earlier, that it's not by, success is definitely not out of thin air. It's trial and error of business and how to run things and what to do and how to hurt and how not to make other people hurt.
Sure.
has definitely helped us to continue to find our way. Speaking of DNFs, Galen, remember the open workout when I was still just a member there that you were judging / coaching for me? I think speaking of Steve's comment of being, over 200 pounds and a movement that didn't work for him, box jumps, so me and a 95-pound thruster, especially back then, was not a no-go. It's like, if I jokingly call myself a willow tree now, then I was a willow tree sapling then, like just Gumby, frail as can be, weak in the middle, terrible quad strength. And here it was, open workout. What was it? 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3.
21 as well.
Or 21,
Yeah.
21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3 of thrusters with 95 and burpees, bar facing burpees. Definitely didn't know how to pace, definitely didn't know how to stay calm, definitely didn't know where to push and not to make it through. Probably, I don't know, maybe the 15s, and looked at him and said that I'm done. And literally was planning on completely stopping. It was a Friday, I think I was doing it, I was beat up from a probably work week and working out week. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, no, I'm done. Like, that's it. And I might've sat down or something. He's like, no, you're not. It's like, yes, I am. It happened in here one more time with a heavy barbell workout. That's it. I'm done.
Oh, you
And
finished it here.
he had to definitely pick me up and dust me off and get me going again, and definitely made me finish it. But yeah, those are fun days.
So he goes from not finishing 95-pound thrusters to last year, the Hero's Journey week. We did was it Alexander, the so bad one, the back squats and power cleans.
Oh yeah.
Ended up being 155 back squats, and 30-minute time cap came up, and Taryn just laid on the ground. It's like, I'm done. And Ben and I like, no, you're not done. He's like, yeah, I'm done. I promise I'm done. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not done. He's like, okay. He got up and finished. I'm like, I don't believe it.
I got one more round or something. I was like, no, that's the cap. That's the rules. That's how that workout's set up. Thank the Lord above. He's like, you're finishing it. No, I'm not. He's like, no, I'm not.
A little bit of arguing back and forth.
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he conceded, thank God.
Hurting and stubborn for sure. That's for sure. But
That's a nice segue, the Hero's Journey Week. And that workout was definitely the apex from my perspective, the hardest one I've done in some time. We are planning to have Hero's Journey Week again this year. It will be the first week of July, so July 4th week. And likely we'll have some stuff to complement and prepare for that type of, the threshold of challenging weeks too, correct? I think that's the way we all kind of round up on that same note.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We were just talking about people like doing hard things, and that was by far the hardest 5 workouts we've ever put back to back to back to back. 6 workouts, yeah, 6 workouts. Yeah, because Saturday was the hero.
we ended with Hero's Journey.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, that was by far the hardest week of training. I probably maybe competitor back in the day we used to do Invictus, and it's like they do 5 straight days of 100+ pull-ups. It's just like, what are we doing? But by far the hardest week of training I've probably ever done.
And uniquely enough, as we talked about on the phone the other day, probably the #1 most attended week. And I guess the existence of the gym from an attendance.
Doubt about
Yeah, so people just ate it up, which again, we know who we appeal to. We try to be responsible and keep other people's well-being in the crosshairs when we're programming and making sure that that's not something they're experiencing frequently, but it's definitely good to do, good to put out in front of people mentally and physically, but mainly mentally. It's a good reference point back from another tough week down the road that, well, compared to how that Hero's Journey week went, you've got a lot more left in the tank than what you just experienced, for example. So
For sure, yeah. You'll break through those ceilings of mental barriers if you come that week for sure. Like you may not get fitter, maybe a little bit of aerobic pacing because it's just taking so long, but mentally for sure you break through. Going back to Glassman, that is the biggest, what do you say? Most adaptation happens in between the ears in CrossFit. So that's one of the benefits I've always told people it's why we keep a-holes out. It's because most a-holes don't want to work hard. And that's why we have such a good community with us at both locations. Both hardworking, good people, which is rare to find, especially if you watch the news.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, especially you're talking about kind of building your mindset and it kind of carries over into the world. I think it does. And so, you know, you don't have a participation trophy in here, like we'll cheer you on and everybody can do what, you know, they can do as far as the workout's concerned. You know, you can modify it and everything else, but you have to put in the work. And I think that's what's, I think it's pretty cool about CrossFit. And so when it comes to that week, you really find out who you are. And on top of that, kind of like what you're saying, if you're able to do well in here, you can take that outside, you know, if you're going against, you know, whatever you're doing, if you're going against the market, you know, whatever business you're in, it'll help you to, I think, persevere. That's just the way I see it. It's helped me a lot. I know that. God, when I started here, I was in college and I had a 1.7 GPA. That's what it was. So I started coming in here and I started to realize that, you know, what I did actually mattered as far as results. And I didn't even like school anyway, but I was thinking, I was like, if I'm going to be in here and I can see that I can do better in the physical space, then I know that if I try hard here, I can do better in this mental scholastic space. Right. So, but that's just kind of the way I see it too. So
It's kind of where name was kind of birthed, and 10 experience was want to do this in here to make the outside life better. So that kind of relates to Steve, make it an experience. Speaking of, we hit on the open there or CrossFit there for a little bit. Open, I think we have 3 people here made it to the quarterfinals. Ben, I think he's 600 and something in the world, 226 or something, and I think North America. So he goes to quarterfinals in a couple of weeks and does that workout at the gym. Then hopefully goes to semifinals. Kelly as well, and then Micah and Becca. Honestly, I could be wrong. She's going to hate me for not knowing this, but she's right there on the cusp as well. She may be in the quarterfinals as well. So it's pretty good showings up here. So cheers to you all. Speaking of the open, thoughts on the programming this year? 3 workouts and what we had. Morristown, go first.
3 workouts, 1 dimension. If I had to sum it up in one.
Thumbs are right up. Yeah,
Yep,
that's true. It's true.
Steve, what do you
I
think?
don't want to critique it, but I don't think you know, it's hard to do much in 3 weeks, but it's also hard not to have 3 very diverse tests. And I don't know that was the goal. I assume the goal, the diversity of the test. I hate to use that word. The variety of the tests.
Use a different
The
sentence.
variety of the tests will continue to maybe spread out and not complement a singular domain, or everything was a triplet, right? Well, outside the second workout, but a lot of bending, not a lot of heavy squatting for sure. Not a lot of skill laced in there, not a lot of variety.
Yeah, the open is always, I think, a broad event, if you will. They're just trying to get people involved with as little equipment as they can and trying to make not the metrics easier by any means, but they're trying to get people involved, and I understand that. And then especially just making it 3 weeks. When we first started doing this, it was 6 weeks. It was a 6-week or 6 workout scenario. So you were, by week 3, you still had some time to catch up if you were behind or whatever. And I guess if I were to think about this year's CrossFit Open, I would think of it, I'm not crazy, like he said, I'm not crazy about what they chose as far as the workouts are concerned. It wasn't enough variety for me, but I will say that 3rd workout was a lot of fun. The second one come down to managing low back, blowing up. That's the way I see it. It's a lot of bending. And then that first one, of course, the first one, the first one, I didn't even really, I was trying to think. I don't think I did it. Yeah. I don't think I did that one. Yeah. And that one looked like it was all shoulders. So, and I tore my hand on the third one. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah. So, but if I were to surmise it up, yeah, it's just one of those things where they're trying to get a bunch of people involved, little equipment, and then a little amount of time. And so it's kind of hard to hit it all.
What do you think, Karen?
I think that they wrote it for me and not for you.
I think, I don't know, like
I mean, the heaviest barbell of that was 225 pounds.
for a deadlift.
Right, for a deadlift.
We're
and,
used to seeing 315 maybe for a squat clean or something like that.
Right.
Like it's a big difference.
Wall walks and muscle ups, both of which pretty good body control type movements and gymnastics type movements, but not, I don't know. It was a small guy's 3 workouts, I think. Someone that had a good endurance base could manage pretty good. And
Yeah, I agree. Morning Chocolate they put up something talking about the CrossFit back in the day, especially when we started CrossFit. Glassman, love him or hate him, he was smart. And he would always say measurable, observable, repeatable. And one of the things they didn't do is repeat something to kind of see how you did each year. And then also CrossFit, 10 general physical skills. You got strength, stamina, cardiorespiratory endurance, flexibility, power, speed, agility, accuracy, coordination, and balance. Yeah, got them all, baby. Still remember that. So you got that. And, what's that?
level 3.
But I don't think those were all tested. I don't think that. And if you're trying to test, especially for the open, to narrow down to get to a second portion where there's going to be heavier lifting, some of the guys that could lift heavier or go longer or shorter are kind of getting left out. Or in the years past, I think they did a little bit better. I could have maybe not sound so complaining if they would have made the thrusters maybe in the last workout a little bit heavier instead of like 95, 115, 135, maybe 95, 135, 185 or something like that, just to like separate, because as Terrence said, that's a gymnastic-y person's workout. They can do 15 minutes. Because I think the top times in the world, first one was the AMRAP, which was a lot of rounds. It's blown my mind that people could do that many rounds. And then the second one, people were finishing, the good athletes, Ben finished at 8:46. So you got an 8-minute time domain. And then he finished the second one at 6:46 or something like that, which is 2 minutes difference. Like you're right in that pain cave zone where I think it needs to go lighter, or so it needs to go longer or heavier on any of those, just to split it up some more. That's me.
be interesting to see how the rest of it unfolds, because surely they're going to start incorporating those heavier bars and stuff in these next rounds.
Yeah, I would
I
assume
mean, it
so.
obviously opens up the doors for them to program more towards a higher level athlete now, as opposed to, like Steve said, just trying to program to include people. That barrier of entry type thing that they mentioned themselves, especially for that first workout, they kept it real low. For most of them, really. You subtract a muscle up and everyone's performing that, all 3 of those, which if that's what they were after, fair enough. But is it the test to get people into, the next round and start whittling away the best athletes? Maybe not.
Are you trying to find the fittest? Like
Right.
That's the goal. It didn't work. I think it could have been better.
Unless
That's
they were
me.
just thinking that the fittest or the upper level will make it into the next round, and that's when they might open things up. Maybe.
Which they will. Everybody's at the games is going to make it to the next round.
Right.
But it's those ones around the borderline, which would have helped out. So I'm not complaining. We got athletes in it. This is just me from a programming and longevity in CrossFit, what we're used to seeing versus what we're seeing now. And Castro being gone and all that jazz. So
Poor David.
poor Dave. He's doing something with, or I seen him share something with, remember Miranda Olroyd? I can't remember what her name is now.
Street parking, right?
Yeah, they do street parking really good at home programming. They're doing the Freedom Games or something, July 3rd, I think in Austin or something like that. It looked like maybe Castro's going to be there. It'd be hilarious if he went and did a different thing. It'd be so funny.
You think that hurt CrossFit's brand getting rid of him?
I think Dave's one of those people that people love to hate. And it's like, F him. I don't like him while he's here, but when he's gone, if you're into the sport, if you're into the fitness, you miss him. That's me personally.
Yeah, that's the way I view him. He's kind of like a tough coach, like especially in football. I had a lot of coaches I hated, but I could argue that they made me better, at least at my sport, right? So that's the way I see it.
Their timing was unique with it, or however it unfolded. I should say they intended to make it happen that way. But if anything in the next few weeks goes south, if the programming doesn't improve, if people think that it wasn't quality, then what they just did is give people an excuse to blame it on his absence.
Yeah.
You know, whether it is,
It could have been his workouts too. We don't know.
well, true. I figure he would have sounded off if that were the case. But yeah, anyways.
He was on the Savon podcast. It's hilarious. I was watching it. Savon had Rich Froning, Angela DeChico, James Hobart, who works for CrossFit HQ, and then somebody else who's with them anyways. And Dave called in while they were doing it and was just kind of picking at James Hobart. And he's like, I'm surprised you're on here, me on here since you work for HQ, and like made a joke out of it. And Hobart's face was this. Like wouldn't smile, wouldn't do anything. But they leaked the workout, or the last workout was leaked earlier. And Dave started laughing. He goes, what a S show. And just like then hung up the phone laughing. And Hobart was like dead serious. I was like, oh, it's one of those things where people get mad at a waitress and I want to hide under the table. It's one of those things that Hobart just, it's like so funny. So could have been his workouts. Who knows?
It's hard to say.
I wonder what their relationship's like. Or if they had one that was healthy before Castro's excommunication.
Who, Hobart or CrossFit?
Hobart and Castro.
I don't know. Castro was like, that's one of the things, like people just think it was games there until maybe last year or the year before. He was also the head of training. So he's the one that set up all the level 1s and 2s and put all the trainers down and all that stuff. He's like, that was his passion. It's what he loved, was setting up all that stuff and teaching basically CrossFit to people. And Hobart was he was a flow master. He was one of the head trainers there. So I don't know if could be bad blood from that, because I'm sure Castro is not the easiest to work for either. His last name's Castro.
I always thought that was ironic. I did. I always thought it was ironic that he was very dictatorial.
Watch your mouth.
Yeah, I don't know that's even a word as I'm sounding it out. Authoritarian for sure. Sort of like a tyrant, but also, you know, what's top of mind is Razor Ramon just died.
Oh yeah.
And he was a heel and wrestler, but you got to have the heel so that you can have someone to look, you know, you have to have these contrasting voices. And I think I've never met Castro, but I want to give the devil his due. I think he played the persona up really well, but I don't think in a one-on-one type situation that I would have had the same opinion of him. So the face that he put forward, I wasn't really a fan of, but I understood the need for it, and it engaged people, and it's easier for us to rally together if we dislike someone. So I think he gave a lot of people a target, whether he meant to do that purposefully. I don't know if I'm giving him more credit intellectually than he deserves, but maybe he deserves more than my 5-year-old or 5 year ago self would have given him.
Yeah. Well,
It seems kind of bland, like everything feels bland now without him, you know?
Agree.
Yeah, it worked. They came up with maybe I shouldn't say clothing line, but he had a handful of shirts and probably some merch that expressed people's distaste for him.
Oh
in a
yeah, I
joking
forgot
way.
about that. Yeah.
So whatever he was after, if that was truly it, then check that box, because people made shirts and made money off of it. Maybe even him. I don't
And
know.
he would wear it. He would think it was hilarious. So
So,
I think you're right, G. He played that persona really, really well.
And that's important.
For his
If you
brother. He might go work for his brother in Canada, the prime minister. Maybe Castro. We're canceled. We're canceled.
yeah. This one's
That's so funny.
Yeah, but that's kind of what you guys are saying. That's the way I judge a good movie, you know, like Batman with Heath Ledger, right? Obviously a good bad guy. To me, I'm kind of weird, but a lot of times I actually like the bad guy better than the good guy. So that's just me.
Yeah, and the background of that too, like Castro coming from We really disliked him for a while just because of the Black Box Summit back in the day. So 2010 or 11, somewhere through there, like they had a Black Box Summit where a bunch of the best of the best of the best CrossFit gym owners, movement specialists, nutrition specialists got together, and he caused a big scene. And I think he kind of took it personally that people knew more than him and kind of lashed out a little bit and canceled some affiliates. And we're like, what the heck is going on right now? So that's when Rob Wolf made his exodus, Greg Everett, and all that. So, God, who else was in that? Michael Rutherford, the Black Box programming guy. So he got really angry at Greg Everett, which I can understand why, because he's pretty much same personality if you follow him on Twitter as Castro. So.
Plus, when you think about what he came from, like Navy SEAL, I'm not saying they're all like that, but there's a little bit of a persona there. Like I'm the alpha, the head guy. It's just
very like, this is the task. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to sway from this task. We're going to get it done. And if you say anything outside of that, watch out.
Yeah. And a lot of things are just like very matter of fact. Like there's no, like he's just going to speak candidly with you because that's the way he did with, maybe his group that he was with in the SEALs. So to me, I'm not surprised by the way he acted and the way he portrayed himself, essentially.
Yeah. What's going on a lot? Galen, what are you reading right now?
Oh man.
Or listening to, or anything new that's kind of catching your ears or eyes?
I wish I had some real interesting thing to share and could say that I've been reading volumes and ancient tomes and absorbing all sorts of wisdom, but little violin that I continue to play says that you have zero span of attention, and what attention you have left over is not enough to commit to much in the way of intellectual growth. However, I will say in the last week, I watched a podcast with a guy, and I'm gonna probably butcher the pronunciation of his name, but he's a Hindu or an Indian yogi. His name's Sadhguru. He was on Joe Rogan. I've seen him speak a few other different times, and he really engaged my interest. So I started reading one of his books yesterday. It's called Internal Engineering. So
I'll put
right.
What? I said I'll put a picture up on the screen. People want to check it out.
He has this,
He looks the part, man. He looks the part.
yeah, he's a really interesting character. And like I said, it's very, very cursory right now, my understanding of anything that he's saying. And I certainly don't have a perspective that is worth considering yet. But I may give him my eyeball and my ear for a while, see what he can tease out of me in the way of controlling how I respond to things as opposed to just reacting. So he talks about a reaction versus a response. And the space between those two things, in my opinion, react, respond, this is enlightenment. So if you have the opportunity to consider what you're doing before you do it, that's enlightenment. And I think I need to practice that until my dying day. I don't have anything else that's really super interesting. On the totally opposite side of that equation, Tristan and I started rewatching the show Justified. Do you remember that, Jay?
Oh, Raylan Givens, baby.
And Taryn is Raylan Givens.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
He's the head guy of the show.
Okay.
Very.
Like if Taryn and Steve Ranella had some sort of offspring, it would be Raylan Givens.
Yeah, I can see Steve Renell as well.
Okay. Well, I know Steve Ranella. I don't know anything about this Gibbons fellow that you're talking of. I'm gonna have to.
Thanks.
Can you flash a picture of him across the screen? Are we talking looks or actions or both?
Timothy Oliphant.
of it.
Timothy Oliphant, I think is the guy's name.
Yeah, Timothy. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I love Boyd Crowder's character, the Goggins guy.
God, mate. So it brings back such memories. I used to love that show. So it is good. It used to be an FX show. Justified. Yeah, Justified. What about you, Steve? Anything new? Books, TV, shows, life?
Ooh. Just like everybody else, I've been pretty busy, so I haven't been able to hone in on like certain books I want to read. But I've always been an Audible guy, and I'm still listening to a book about. This is where my mind goes. Galen's got a cool answer. Mine's propagandistic, essentially. So That's a word, right? Is that a word?
Yeah, you're doing better than me.
Okay, good. So I was listening to a book about basically, not to be doom and gloom, but it's kind of like how China structures its government, how they move their money around, how they invest in other countries, continents, things like that, how they infiltrate educational systems, media systems, things like that. And it's written by the dude's got the coolest name. General Spalding is the guy's name. And I'm still listening to that book. If you want to check it out, it's a pretty big selling book. Maybe not like that one, but when it comes to other media, I'm always listening to stuff about, real estate. I don't know why, but I love stuff about listening about guys that are hedge fund managers, guys that run like stock markets, things like that. Look into like Blackstone. Blackstone has $10 trillion in assets, and they have money infused in every big company ever, and they're government backed. And so that's a company that, if you're interested in things like that, as far as like control of countries and markets and things like that, you should look into that group. The CEO is Larry Fink. And anyways, they own like stocks in Pepsi. And when I say stocks, I mean like major amounts of stocks where they can actually control boards and they can control the hiring and firing of boards and things like that. So I find that stuff interesting. And as far as watching shows, Emily's got me watching Dexter. So I've never watched it. I'm in the second season. I think it went 9 seasons. And that's because I basically pulled her into watching Daredevil and The Punisher. Yeah. So I owed her a show, and that's the show I'm in right now. So.
Gotcha. BlackRock and Blackstone both they're both ridiculous. That's a lot of money. It's funny, like Berkshire Hathaway, they're talking about Berkshire Hathaway owns so much of their company, but then also BlackRock owns so much of Berkshire Hathaway. So it's basically like it's weird how they live off each other. Yeah.
And if you want to go down like a deep rabbit hole as far as real estate, how it's tied all together, they're going throughout the country and they're buying different single family homes for 20% over value, because that way they're able to accumulate more real estate. And of course they can afford it. But then what people don't understand is that company is government backed. They're at the point where they're too big to fail. So they can pay more, they can go belly up, and then we will help them out. So there's no ceiling for those guys. So I'm not saying that to scare anybody, but like as far as like moving the nation towards a renter nation, that's how you move it towards that. And that's kind of what's happening. So I say all that to say, if you want to buy a house, I know a guy. So something to pay.
Shameless plug.
I'll pop a picture up of that as well. I'll find a billboard picture somewhere online.
You worried about the prospect of real estate? Let me introduce you to the profit of real estate.
Taryn, you think? In case y'all don't know, Galen and Taryn are going through building a house right now.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
We're taking a lot of time up from there.
That's
a lot great.
That's where I was going. I was going to say I'm like Galen in a few ways, not that I'm chasing enlightenment or ideas and reading through that, but my focus is thumbing through my stack of invoices for a home building project and Wayfair catalogs for picking things out. But as far as like podcasting, trying to stay in touch with the world we live in here from a business standpoint, I'm way late to the game, but got a Whoop strap. I told myself I wouldn't because I was afraid of becoming overwhelmed with the data and focusing a little too much on it. Lauren surprised me with one, which I'm grateful for. It showed up and I really like it. So to her credit, I'm glad she made me make the leap. And with that made me kind of focus more on my sleep, because it's unique in the data that it starts to give you all the HRV info and its algorithms that it generates your recovery on, and it's percentage based for those that don't have a Whoop. And mine, I quickly found out that mine was not very good like I thought it was. Even nights that I felt like I got a restful night's sleep based on its data and its metrics wasn't necessarily that. You have people like him with HRVs well over 100, and I was lucky to get mine above 40. So I started looking into reasons why that was, and that brought me back. And you guys have heard us talk about this guy 1,000 times, and you can find tons of info on YouTube for him, to a bunch of Matthew Walker podcasts. Now, I didn't go back and read his book, which I probably should have, but he can be found on all kinds of different podcasts. So I started diving a little bit more into those ideas with him via his videos, and have since improved it, which is good. And recovery is starting to trend up based on these metrics again. HRVs on the up, climbing into the 60s and stuff occasionally, and definitely above the 40s where it was. So that's what I was kind of consumed by from an educational standpoint, and just trying to drill in on recovery there. But outside of that, it's all home building things. And
There's a teaching opportunity. What did you do to improve the quality of your sleep?
I stopped eating late. And when I did eat, if I did have to eat late, I had to whittle away at the portion that I ate. I was one that a lot of times I played around with the intermittent fast, still pretty much do for the most part, maybe a little outside of your normal intermittent fasting eating windows, meaning that I eat earlier than I should, or at least consume calories earlier than I should, most of the time via protein or a Fit Aid post-workout here at the gym. But working in the evenings a lot of times would have me home at 8 to prepare a meal or to heat a meal that I made. And when I say meal, it's most of the time my second meal of the day. So it was this big. Obviously clicks you into digestion mode, as opposed to allowing the body to bounce back and forth between, the two options of rest that you actually have. And that definitely helped. So
I've noticed.
Probably not the best from a caloric standpoint, because in those late meals that I normally would try to make up ground, have lost some ground from consuming enough calories. But from a recovery standpoint, not eating as late as possible. So eating earlier in our day, if I don't work the late shift, and then if I do have to eat after that, eat a smaller meal, try to stay up and moving of some sort before going to sleep, as opposed to hammering it and then going and laying down. And that definitely has improved it drastically. Obviously steering clear of alcohol as much as possible.
Have you noticed
huge.
that's a big one?
Oh, it's, I mean, and not to plug the Whoop strap, but it does a pretty good job of helping you to thumb through it, as if we didn't already know, or as if I didn't already know that alcohol affects sleep in a poor way. When you wake up in the morning, it shows you your recovery and your metrics, and then it lets you thumb through. You can make it as low as one question, and you can make it as many as probably, I don't know the whole list, I'd say upwards of 50 questions. Did you consume added sugar? Did you track your carbohydrates? Did you consume alcohol of any sort? There's question after question after question. If you answer yes to any of them, it allows you to dig in a little bit deeper if you choose. Obviously, yeah. And alcohol is one that I answer each day, and it'll start to send you reminders or notifications like, hey, due to the trends in your answers and your trends of recovery, alcohol affects your sleep by 20% in a negative way, essentially, or something of that sort. So yeah, definitely. I mean, not the worst nights I've ever had are, from an evening of a handful of drinks that end my day, go to bed, shortly after consuming the last one, as opposed to giving it time to process. But yeah, that's the main change that I made. Steer clear of late evening caffeine and make those smaller meals more frequent, if that makes sense.
Have you, so you do close a night shift. Have you thought about adding more calories at the beginning of the day to offset it?
A smart person would.
Yeah. He's like, I'm building a house. I'm doing my thing. We're good. Building a house.
Yeah, he's got smart person. Smart people don't do that right now either.
Yeah. There's definitely room that I could make up that lost ground. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the Whoop strap's good. Like I don't know. I would like it if it went on a monthly membership and I had a watch feature as well. If it was more like I have a Garmin, but it's not as, I don't think it's as accurate as the Whoop. But I would love to have these two combined to be in one strap. That'd be amazing. It'd be absolutely amazing. Yeah.
What about you?
Dude, I'm squirrel brain. Reading or listening to 3 different books right now. One's A Fourth Turning. I don't know if you read it. It's about a bunch of basically scientists. It took them 20 plus years to write this book. Basically, it goes over civilization and how time is not linear, it's cyclical. And there's 4 seasons. There's spring, summer, fall, and winter like normal. So spring is like mostly talking about the growth and fall of nations. So spring is the growth, talking about America, and it goes in like 100-year cycles. So we got growth, we got summer, which is super prosperous, fruitful, fall starting to die, and winters when the basically cyclical timeline goes through. And these guys got together, I think in the late 70s, and started writing this, talking about the United States, because we went through one basically when the United States started, we went through another one in the Civil War, and it's about time for another one. So they were talking about that, and they predict, it's weird, man. This is written like 95, 97. And they predicted some sort of global pandemic the collapse of the financial system, 2008, and then another talking about pandemic of some sort happening from 2015 to like 2030, somewhere through there. So it's really interesting. And this was published 27 years ago. But really smart guys. And then another one, Steve was talking about BlackRock. We listened to Great Reset, just talking about how World Economic Forum and stuff like that. And then lastly is Galen, who's urged me for years to read and listen to Endurance, talking about Shackleton. So it's really good. I'm listening to that. They found his ship, I guess, was it last week or week before? So it's really interesting. So talking about them, their first, was it, what they call transit land?
They were crossing the Antarctica.
Yeah, so they were supposed to land on Antarctica, travel across Antarctica, right? And then go to the other side, I guess, back to their ship. But this was what, 1919?
If there was the Endurance where they were moored or stuck in the ice, they were planning to make a little bit further, and then they would have crossed Antarctica, and they had a whole other crew, like the Forgotten Crew. There's a book called Shackleton's Forgotten. They would have met with them and then gone on, but they got stuck. Yeah. So that's another book you can read as well if you find the Endurance book interesting.
I'm getting to where I think the hull just cracked in the ship. So I'm at that point right now, listening on the way here. But it's really good, really interesting. And then like other than that, man, just like I watched every episode of Meat Eater, especially while I was sick for the first 2 months of the year. It felt like I had COVID and then some sort of sinus infection and ear infection that lasted after that. So I watched all that and homesteading videos talking about Robin's parents' property and stuff, and love to get into more of that stuff as far as animals, hunting, and growing on plants, vegetables, fruits, all that jazz. So interested to dig more into that with her and her family whenever she gets finished with school. So hopefully keep learning, keep being a squirrel brain, 30 things going on at once.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to put a button on it, unless you guys want to go into anything else.
That's what I can think of. Try to make this a
Monthly.
yeah, monthly or every 2 weeks or something like that. At least get some more content out to you.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So things to look forward to in the days to come. Then I'll kind of wrap it up if that's okay. We've got our 9-year coming up in early April. So tune in with that. If you want to head from Morristown to Bristol and celebrate with us, our Bristol folks, come join us. We'll have a great time celebrating a big achievement. On top of that, we do have in April coming some additional aerobic capacity type work. So if you enjoyed that during the Outlier Challenge, then expect that to come down the pipe as well. We continue to prep for Murph through some more higher gymnastics volume work. What else have I missed here that we've covered? That kind of wrapped it up.
The charity.
Paleo FX too. We should probably.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah. And yeah, tune in with us for Murph whenever we do show up. If you're interested in supporting the charity with Steve Amos and company, then definitely inquire about one of the shirts as they pop up. We'll have our sign up sheets out too. And then, yeah, we can round out on that. We do our best to try to stay informed and stay with the current trends of fitness and nutrition. We try to, in years past, make a trip of some sort to be able to do that. This year, we're excited to head out towards Austin, Texas, and dive into Paleo FX with us 4, as well as our 10 fit directors, Katya and Shanna. So it was exciting to be able to bring them along this year and hopefully bring back some information to you guys. It always does a good job of kind of reigniting or further fanning the flame that's in us for this world. So we hope to bring back some, 1, excitement, and 2, just information for you guys. So yeah, we'll be out for a long weekend for that. So you'll see some assistant coaching step in. And then we'll be excited to bring everything back to you.
Yeah,
We'll probably do a podcast while we're there on, you guys might have heard of Joe.
Oh,
Rogan.
yeah.
we're
I
gone.
think that's a podcast that he probably want us on there, I would think.
Our minds are in the same spot,
Yeah,
Jay.
you were about to say
I
that,
was gonna
weren't
say
you?
we're gonna be on that. Then you said, I was like, all right.
Yeah, probably a couple more viewers than this one might receive.
It wouldn't surprise me if he's there, honestly. He's in Austin now and all his friends that he has in the business. So we went in 2015 or something like, when was that? Was it 2015?
Long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. And it's grown and grown and grown. Not growing, but grown.
Oh.
So stay tuned with us there. Also, give us any feedback in the comments that you have on these podcasts. Let us know if you're enjoying them, if you're tuning in. We obviously can see views to a degree, but the more info we can collect and things you'd like to hear us expand upon, the better, so that we can have a little bit of structure or maybe a somewhat of a rough itinerary to buzz through on these things. So we're going to try to get back in the groove as we did kind of during COVID time. So hopefully you enjoyed it and hopefully enjoy the ones to come. And on that note, I think we'll sign off. All
Bye-bye.
right, see you, boys.
Yes.
See you guys.
That's it.